Oscar, probably of all the filmmakers, he is the most driven man of all of us. He was completely driven to tell the story of the African American experience the way he wanted to tell it. And he didn't take any kind of concern from white, black, rich or poor. He told the story. And it wasn't until he really saw the movie Birth of a Nation and its effect on the audience that he decided, I must take control of my image. I must become a filmmaker. And while he was seated there, he was seated with his mother and the second wife was sitting and watching the theater. And of course, they were in the colored section up in the balcony. And while the movie was going, a riot broke out. Blacks started throwing things down from the balcony onto the white audience. Fight broke out. I think about 4 or 5 people were killed that night. And as this fight was going on around, he was trying to get his mother and his wife out of the theater. As they were standing there, he told them to go home. He said, I have just seen the most powerful thing in the world, and that is how propaganda can be used in a darkened theater. I must understand this. And that began his journey, because he understood the power of propaganda. And he will be the most prolific black filmmaker in the history of film, no question.
This is Fresh Air Weekend. I'm Terry Gross. My guest, Nikole Hannah-Jones, covers what she sometimes describes as the segregation beat. She writes about racial injustice for the New York Times Magazine and was a reporter at ProPublica before that. For the past few years, she's investigated why schools remain segregated.
Absolutely. When I started what I kind of call the segregation beat about 5 years ago, no one was writing really about segregation. If you look at No Child Left Behind, which comes out of the Bush administration, that was all about giving up on integration in schools and just saying, we're going to make these poor Black and Latino schools equal to white schools by testing and accountability. So no one was discussing integration anymore. And I think it's because, one, we never really wanted it. If you look at the great civil rights legislation that gets passed in the 60s, the very last law that's passed is the Fair Housing Act, which gets passed in 1968. That was considered the Northern Civil Rights Bill, and it is the one that's considered the complete failure, because that was going to integrate where we live. And by proxy, that would integrate schools. And Northern congressmen fought that the same way that Southern congressmen were fighting the other civil rights laws. And the only reason that law gets passed is Dr. King gets assassinated. 100 cities riot. Black, poor, segregated northern cities. And it's in the flames where there literally are rioters within feet of Capitol Hill that Congress manages to pass the Fair Housing Act. And then Nixon is elected and immediately runs on a Southern strategy where he says, if you support me, and he's appealing to white Southerners and white Northern ethnics, that he will stop forward progress on school desegregation and housing integration. And that's what he does.
On one cold, frosty morning, the ground was covered with snow. The ground was covered with snow. Well, I met a million of people who didn't have no place to go. Well, some have children, some just have their walking, but they couldn't find no place to go. But the time's going to be better. Well, and that I really do know. Well, the time's gonna be better, and that I really do know. Because it looks so sad and lonesome, people can't find nowhere to go. People cheering was shivering, standing around my front door. People cheering was shivering, standing around my front door. Well, they was hungry and almost naked, and couldn't find no place to go.